Welcome to AkronHipHop.com, where we paint positive images of our people every day. My name is Deborah Calhoun, and I teach at Kent State University in the Department of Pan-African Studies. And this is Understanding the Black Experience. Hey, Hiram, how are you today?
You know what? I am okay. So you call it Understanding the Black Experience. I'll call it the Pan-African Experience.
And it's both, really.
Okay. So what we doing today?
We're going to have an open mic today, where I think you've got questions from the community. Inquiring minds want to know. So I'm on the hot seat here, and we're going to try to answer some of those burning questions.
Well, first off, I'm excited that you even here and rock with us for this season and everything. That's you've been here since the beginning of November. It's
Yes.
New Year's,
Yes.
upon us, Kwanzaa's kicking. You know what I'm saying? I'm just excited that you're here. So here's some questions. How about this? What was the first slave ship name that came here in these states?
Oh boy, that was in 1609. It was a Portuguese ship. I want to say the good ship Jesus.
Yeah, I think that's right.
The good ship Jesus.
So is that a connection to anything on how, those old slave hymns we used to sing? Is that correlated to what the original ship was, to those slave hymns?
Well, steal away to Jesus. The Portuguese ship and what got the arrivals out of the sticky widget of slavery, because they came and they were indentured servants, or served to become servants for the colonials in the New World. And how they got out of it was that they were technically Christians on a Portuguese ship. So they escaped that moniker of slavery, but just how they happened to be. It was a confiscated property from a Portuguese ship.
Okay, going on to the next one. Here in Blackburn, Ohio, we are, some say, fortunate to be the home of one John Brown.
Yes.
Okay, John Brown is a European man.
Yes.
There's some folklore, there's some factual. I want you to give us a class, a little brief one, because I got a couple more questions about who the hell John Brown is. We know his mansion is on Copley.
Yep.
On Copley Road.
Yep.
Educate us.
Yes, John Brown was a Quaker.
What?
A Quaker.
What is that?
A Quaker is a member of the Religious Society of Friends, a Christian sect or denomination that has a different particular form of worship. They are each individually called Quaker or Friends meetings. They hold their meetings in silence. They believe that there is God in everyone. And they are also pacifists, or that they follow nonviolent philosophy.
So where's the Quakers from?
The Quakers come from
Give us that history.
our next door neighbor, Pennsylvania, William Penn. Back in the day when the colonial period was in effect, a certain governor, if you will, got an entire state. So you know how long the state of Pennsylvania is. If you start at Pittsburgh, you got to ride 9 hours at least to get to Philadelphia, and you're not even at the end of the state yet. So the whole state of Pennsylvania, or the colony of Pennsylvania, at one time was a non-slave holding colony or state. They were the first amongst the 13 colonies to outlaw slavery. First, ownership by members, ownership by groups of individuals, and later even moved to absolve, or rather talk about that we didn't want even people in our midst who had stock and ownership in the trade companies who invested in slavery. And it's from that we get the idea of William Penn, Pennsylvania, or the Quaker man on the oatmeal box.
Here in Akron.
In Akron.
So how do Jim and John Brown connect to all this?
Well, John Brown was a Quaker, and as he was living here, he was on the way out to Missouri. And at that time, the way states were determined whether slave nor free was depending on the numbers of population. And he was so upset with the whole notion of slavery, and so set against it, and wanted to maintain his pacifism, that he thought that God had called him to fight against slavery. In fact, he lives in Akron and Hudson, Ohio. As he finishes in Kansas, he loses a son, in fact, in fighting over Kansas territory, fighting slave versus free status. He loses a son in that skirmish. On the way back, he heads to or thinks about the idea of organizing a rebellion, arming the slaves after taking a federal arsenal, in Harper's Ferry, Virginia, and helping the slaves overturn slavery.
So, if John Brown was alive right now, he'd be wearing a Black Lives Matter shirt.
He absolutely would be wearing a Black Lives Matter
He's
shirt.
the original Eurocentric Black Lives Matter protester.
He was the first, one of the first to give his life.
Aggressive folklore. He was a little more aggressive and stuff within his belief. He was wanting to pick up guns.
Yes.
Quakers didn't like that. Explain.
The Quakers are pacifists, and they kind of talk about John Brown as that cousin that you don't want to talk about at the family gathering.
Why?
Because of his philosophy being so different.
What was his philosophy?
Well, his philosophy was by getting rid of slavery by any means necessary.
So he was like, you got to pick up a gun?
Yep.
You got to pick up a gun.
Yes.
Oh, so we should be liking John Brown.
We should absolutely know who John Brown is, because he's one of those allies, of which there were many, who fought against the slave system. Elijah Lovejoy was another one out of Chicago. The Grimsky sisters were ones who put their money based on slavery, and they were from Germany and had plantation activity here in the United States, but they turned their money and resources into supporting the Underground Railroad. So we have allies that we need to know about.
So let's talk about the Underground Railroad and how it relates to the Quakers. Go ahead.
Well, the Quakers, in their righteousness, given that Pennsylvania was the first colony, later the state, to abhor slavery, they put their money where their mouth is, and they supported financially the Underground Railroad. Now, we know the Underground Railroad was a series of safe houses. It was not a railroad that ran overground. It was a series of safe houses, and at each safe house there was a conductor. The conductor would receive escaped slaves, help them matriculate into the new situation they found themselves in. They would get new clothes, get clean shaven, cleaned up, put in the clothes of the community of which they were in, and in that way help liberate slaves.
All right, got one more last question. I've been going for days. I got a whole bunch of them.
Okay.
Let's talk about the importance of the black press. Newspapers like the Reporter newspaper and what they're doing online with us here at AfroHipHop.com. Talk about the importance of the black press. You got any history on that?
Well, I knew William Ellis.
That's the founder.
He was the founder. Bill's dad. I remember him.
Why is it important that what he did over 50 years ago?
Yes.
To make that thing happen.
He was part of a network of black newspaper men. He, with the Call Post, with the Chicago Defender, with the Washington Bee, with the Pittsburgh Courier. These were all black newspapers that in its day ran the news of the day for the African community. And they built a network of information, because Akron, remember, was one of the spots in terms of the Great Migration from south to north. We know that Chicago was a point, Cleveland was a point, Pittsburgh was a point, that when African Americans, former slaves, were leaving the South and coming north, they came to these locations I mentioned, and in each of these locations was a black newspaper.
So why was it important that those newspapers, why was they so important, so instrumental into the liberation of the would-be liberation of us?
Well, they told our story.
There you go.
They told our story as only they could tell it.
Speaking of telling our stories, read that and tell everybody what that is.
The Reporter this is Akron's newspaper serving African Americans. The Reporter has been documenting this community's history since 1969.
Okay, now read that. It's going to blow you away what you're looking at. Just read out loud.
The Reporter, Akron's African American newspaper, is now available in full text, searchable on Ohio Memory, www.ohiomemory.org.
So you know what that means?
We can find it online anytime.
Not that. That's a little different. We have the Reporter newspaper online.com. That you can find 50 years of Akron history from the Reporter.
Yes.
That's every last newspaper.
Yes.
Explain what you're looking at.
Well, this is to say, even before I was active, I can go back and look at what my community was doing before I was born, before I became an activist.
Now, not only you can get it on the Reporter newspaper online.com. What's the website there you can get it on too?
The website you can get this on is
Just
OhioMemory.org. www.ohiomemory.org.
Well, take us out of here. We're about to go. Let's go.
Well, to finish up, we know we can like, share, and subscribe this video on the YouTube. Remember to hit that notification bell so you get updates of when videos are dropped. If you are watching on Facebook, remember to share, and share again. For myself and Brother Hiram, thank you, and I'll see you again next time.